I
And
wanted.
you've been busy. You've been busy.
I've been
You've been super
really
busy.
busy.
Yeah, that's what I want to get to know about. What's going on in the world of the Tan Man?
I've been super busy.
Okay.
With many projects. Some, I guess I can talk about all of them. It doesn't matter at this point. Who cares?
Well, I care. That's why I'm asking.
Well, no, I'm just saying in terms of like the marketability aspect and
Oh,
this,
all that
like,
stuff.
Yeah, it's gonna come out eventually.
Right.
So I forgot to grab the other one, but it doesn't matter. I'm currently the stuff I did grab. I'll talk about first, and then I'll get into the little EP that we're putting out. But as you know, as you're well aware of, we've been working on many artworks and layouts together for this series called the Lost Lives series.
I love it.
Now we just released, or we're just getting to release, and at this point it's out there. The volume 3 is coming.
Yep.
So I will have 3 volumes of just different eras of the band's career. I kind of wanted to go into each of them and why I kind of chose them and what makes them special to me.
I think that's a great idea.
And maybe we could talk about each of the artworks and what we were thinking.
Would love to.
And just, I don't know, just have like a friendly conversation. And especially with me now, I kind of need it just to have a friendly conversation that has nothing to do with all the negative aspects that's out there in today's world. It's just going to be a little bit more positive, which I always look forward to. And life needs to be more positive. So,
agreed.
And then we can probably hopefully get into some more aspects of a burning question that you posed, or a topic that you posed, either last time or the time before. At this point, we've done so many of these, I can't keep up with. I'm like, which one? Okay, where did this come from?
Yeah,
and
I'm with you. I'm curious to know because you brought it up as we're setting it up. We're setting up our gear. You brought this up, so I'm kind of excited to see what it is.
And so, but just at first, I want to discuss kind of how the Lost Lives series came to be and just document it. Originally, when I was going through this large pile of pictures for this this demo compilation that we put together called From Crypts to Chaos, Live and Raw. But at the time, it was just going to be a demo compilation only, just to have it out and document it, cement it into history. And so, in case I lost anything, it was out there.
Yeah. Yes.
Now, in doing that specific compilation, I had to dig through all sorts of archives, and one in particular, I had a purple box full of just random photos, family photos, ex-girlfriend photos, band photos,
history. You're digging up history.
All kinds of stuff. I'm like, oh, this is. So I was rediscovering all kinds of stuff, and so I had to kind of pull out basically all the pictures, and literally at the bottom, I had like one layer to go before I could see the purple bottom or whatever of the container.
Mm-hmm.
And there was this thing just floating in there, a CD that was it was just like a blank CD, I thought. And I grab it, I'm like, well, I don't know what this is. I turn it over and it says Madrost Soundboard 10/6/2012. And I'm like, holy smokes. I didn't even know that I had this still.
Right.
I've never, I knew it existed, but it was one of those things where I'm like, I don't think I've ever heard this.
Gotcha.
So it's just eerie that it came out, that I found it or whatever, literally 10 years after it was recorded. And I was like, man, this would be, okay, I'm going to just put it in the CD player, see what this thing sounds like.
Sure.
And I was kind of, it's not the greatest recording, but it will suffice. It documents that time period for sure of how we played and kind of how we sounded, and nothing's ever perfect when it comes to live albums.
Right, absolutely.
Unless you go in and like kind of re-record them, which many bands do, and there's nothing wrong with that either.
Punch them up.
Yeah, but these were like raw recordings, a whole set on our, and it was actually on our first tour, the Sickening Southwest tour, which coincidentally me and you met at
Yep.
on this tour. So it was just, I'm like, okay, I can document this time period. I already have these demos. I'm like, okay, I'm going to put everything together because obviously God or the universe was telling me, hey, like this needs to be documented too. And I'm like, oh, okay, it's just eerie that I was working on this whole project with the demo thing, and then I find a live album.
Yeah.
And so I get a hold of the label and say, hey, this is what I want to do now. And it was supposed to be on a 2 CD set. It ended up becoming a 1 CD set, which it doesn't matter. It's
and this was during COVID, correct? Yeah.
Yeah,
during
yeah.
COVID. So
And
everything was locked down. You couldn't go out, couldn't do nothing. I remember you're having issues with your wrist.
Yes. So I was doing projects.
That was bumming you out too because you couldn't play guitar.
Correct. Yeah.
That's
So
right.
I was concentrating more on podcasting and things of that nature, and
Mm-hmm.
didn't know really what I wanted to do, and just having to find, like, what is it that I want to do. And yeah, I had to have projects that keep me busy, keep me
Absolutely.
occupied. So this was one of them. Fast forward, in the meantime of going through my archives to find all the demos and put this live album on it, I stumbled upon like 5 or 6 extra CDs that I had no idea what, never. I don't remember the shows. They were so long
Sure.
ago where
Yeah,
I was like,
right.
okay, I'm like, it's almost like listening to them for the first time.
Yeah, it's fun to go through them because you're rediscovering yourself. I love it. I do it the same. as well.
So obviously I had to edit some stuff out of it.
Sure.
Just get kind of just the songs only, and
Just
none
the
of
meat
the
of it.
not the 4 seconds here, 2 seconds of just tuning or this, like there's
Right.
all that stuff in the mix.
Right.
So it was just condensing it to
And
the
where was
songs.
where was it filmed at, or where was it recorded at?
They're all recorded at a place called Hoagie Bar Michaels. Now,
Which is not around anymore.
no, it turned into a place called Campus Jack's as of this recording.
Okay.
So, yeah, so I had 5 to 6 of these guys. Some of them are great, I thought. Some of them I felt needed to get out there in the world. Some of them I'm kind of holding back on and seeing what I want to do with these things. Maybe release a song or two out of it. I don't know. Anywho, the first one that I kind of went with was for historical purposes, because I just wanted to see, A, how the reaction would be, B, is this even worth me doing?
Sure.
C, what I don't know how many of these I can do.
Sure.
And so the first one is actually a lineup that features a gentleman by the name of Jake Durbin, who was only in the band for 2 months. He
Okay.
played 3 or 4 shows with us back in 2009, and this was one of the shows, and it sounds great. There's flubs everywhere. There's mic hisses. There are guitars not tuned. There are flubbed up vocals because some of the songs are played for the first time probably.
And
So I
how old
didn't
were you
have-
guys back then? You guys
So-
were kids.
So this was October of 2009. So I was 18. I was still in my teens.
Okay, gotcha.
But some of us were 17, 18.
Yeah, you guys were young.
Yeah, we were
for
young.
sure.
And yeah, I thought it was a good recording. The flubs didn't really matter to me. It was just kind of documenting that history. I didn't have any pictures of us, so it's like, at least I got some audio.
Right.
So I went back to you and said, hey, like, I want to put together this project. What do you think? And you thought it was a great idea too.
Absolutely.
Obviously, because more of your artwork out there, the better. But also,
But also that there's a band. I've been telling bands, as a fan, I've been always wanting bands to do this, and because of ego or whatever the situation is, they never do it. And I think it's great for a band to have more content and more opportunities for fans to to support you. If you already bought all your 4 albums, right? Like every major band, right? They'll have like if you're a diehard whatever Immolation fan or Cannibal Corpse fan or Dying Fetus, Nile, who whatever, Suffocation, whatever it is, you already have all their albums. And it's a rare treat to find a live album. You're like, oh my God, there's a live album. But you took it to the whole nother level and you just keep releasing them, like 3 or 4 of them now. Yeah, so as a fan, that's super cool, man. Just to even do one, stoked on each having, just working on one. And then it also gets something new, especially at a time when nothing's happening because it's COVID.
Well, but at that time too, I was working on this project and the demo compilation simultaneously with you.
Mm-hmm.
I remember saying, "Hey, I need 2 pieces of artwork.
Right.
Whatever the deal we worked out is what we worked out." And I was grateful to get, installments of payments, and I could work with this. And I'm like, okay,
Sure.
cool. I know it's going to get done.
Right.
I'm going to have more releases under my belt.
Absolutely.
And also too, I'm trying to document not just like the last 10 years of our career, but the whole time span of the band's career. And I get it. And some people won't like it. Some people will. It's just mainly for as tribute to like each of the eras of the band. That's maybe people don't know of us, or some of these people.
Or you hear different variations of the songs too.
Well, yeah. Well, you hear songs that only are on these CDs and never got on albums.
Right.
I found a lot of those songs primarily were on these these live shows. So on all fronts, I was just thinking of how important it is to me. I needed to do this for me, to cement and document and give me back a piece of my first kind of dealings when it came to like playing live shows and how I sounded and my playing style and who I was not. It's interesting to see kind of where the band was at, but me in particular, where like I hadn't found who I am yet. So it's like all my influences, like that's who I'm trying to sound like.
Sure.
So it's just interesting to hear that aspect, and then obviously you can curtail it to what we do now, and it's interesting the different eras of the band's career, and I'm so grateful that my dad had the foresight of getting each of the shows documented, and it was $10 or $15, dude, and this is going back to even pre-Maleficent era, the first album. So many people don't know that we existed before that time period. So it was just a kind of a tribute to the band's history and a tribute to me. And again, just like you said, more content the better. Also, though, I wanted to, like, another aspect I know we touched upon was kind of utilizing the mascot and giving the band an image that we could utilize on future album covers.
Agreed.
Because the only time he shows up is on the Maleficent album.
Yeah.
That's him on the cover, and we never kind of utilized him outside of that. So I would going forward, we're going to utilize him more and more. But this would kind of bring him back into the fold, into the image of the band, so people will get used to seeing him. Obviously, there's going to be criticism when it comes to things like this. That's fine. That's just what
everybody criticizes.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. You can do it perfect, and someone's still going to be upset.
Yeah, but we came up with this concept of the Lost Lives Volume 1 for this particular one, of just documenting how the stage looked. I remember I sent you multiple recordings or videos of us playing live there, and just the different incarnations, and I remember you telling me, like, dude, I didn't even know you had this many lineups, and I'm like, how the hell did you keep this going?
Yeah, I didn't realize that. Just the amount of work just to do that. That's pretty incredible.
And then that got me thinking of, man, this really is important. Like, he's right. Let's give it a shot, see what happens. And even if nothing happens, at least I can do it for me. So it's not, I love your talents anyways. It's not like it's a no-brainer. More Tony Koehl artwork for us, and more stuff I can sell. And,
I'm in. It's a great idea.
More stuff we can document.
Right.
And that way I don't lose this material. So,
and it keeps you something to focus on, like I say, during COVID, during a time where you couldn't really do anything. You're forced to be at home. You're forced to either work on yourself or completely waste that opportunity, given to everybody. A lot of people made, better themselves. Other people didn't. You're one of the very few people that actually better themselves.
Yeah, I tried to. I tried to stay out of politics mostly and focus on me, which, I noticed a lot of musicians were doing that at that time too.
Yeah,
so I needed to.
It was pretty interesting. I was like, to see, like just bringing that up, like, a lot of people I didn't think were on that side of the fence, show their true colors.
And I don't want to.
Like,
I don't want to associate with a lot of them. So
yeah,
it's a great.
Well, it made me know how to work around it for me.
Yeah, but it also kind of showed me who I wanted to work with and who I wanted to associate myself just as friends or just acquaintances.
Right.
So I get it. Not everybody's going to agree on everything. That's fine. There's just certain things that I just have morals on that I can't really I can't get past that, and that's what makes me. And I have to. There's nothing wrong with having morals and integrity in a business that doesn't have that, which will pertain to obviously what we're going to talk about in a couple minutes here. But it's interesting with this series. So with the first volume, we wanted to kind of showcase the history of the venue. So it's the mascot on the Hoagie Barmichael's stage. We actually have the logo in the album cover, which I thought was kind of neat.
Yep.
I didn't know you could do that.
Yep.
And then we have a plane with zombies and kind of everything else. And the plane is actually kind of part of the history of the venue because it smashed into it because it's right next to an airport, so this one came out great. I thought, released it had some fun on the back here, which has not gotten brought up yet, but there's some fun kind of magic on the
I love it.
On the back of it, just to have fun.
Your footnotes that you were doing are great.
Yeah, instead of having the usual
fun.
Like copyright stuff.
Well, it was a fun discovery for me when I was doing the layout. Because rarely I ever read. I'm looking just to make sure everything fits. I'm just like, I'm not paying attention to spelling or grammar, nothing like that. I'm like, all right, can you read it? And then I was just looking at it, and a couple words caught my eye. I'm like, oh, this is not like the normal do we put in the back of it. And then I read the whole thing. I'm like, oh, this is cool, man. I'm glad you put that in there because it make it lighthearted for the person that buy it because that's what it is. It's something lighthearted. It's not ultra serious. It's not like say not a studio album where you have to put all this money and time and resources into it. And then also with the artwork as well, like it has to be like lighthearted. Like we're using the first one as like the demo. The gentleman from Withermoon, what was his name again?
You're talking Nefarious?
Yeah, he did the cover, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
with the first demo. Yeah, that was kind of a tribute to that era.
Yeah, I was just trying to keep that
spirit.
Yeah, almost like that style, almost like not like high school, but kind of like high school-ish. Fun, not ultra rendered, just some fun zombie high school art,
But what was neat about that whole experience is I kind of found out kind of how I want the later albums to look like. Like
right.
Now I found
kind of give it kind of a theme almost.
Yeah, no, well, not only that, I know what I like in my artwork now. Like I like the graphite drawing going into Photoshop mixed media piece rather than just a digital thing. I just think there's more humanistic quality to that, and that's what I like in my artwork to begin with is just that humanistic quality rather than you do all kinds of mediums like this gutted CD is like obviously kind of digital, more digital than say this thing, which is like you can clearly tell that somebody actually drew this.
Sure.
And that's what I like in my metal artwork. So yeah, that's what I wanted to go. That's what I wanted for this particular series, and now I can kind of take that same style and apply it to later album covers that we're going to do. So
absolutely.
Now, when we did Volume 2, again, it was like immediately right after juggling, getting this pressed at disc makers, and then kind of what I wanted for Lost Lives Volume 2, I don't even remember I don't even think we had anything. I think you just drew the mascot, and I was like, oh, okay, that'll work.
Yeah, put him on stage.
Well, no, because it's simple.
Oh, that one. Oh, the number 2. That's right. I'm getting 2 and 3 confused.
Yeah.
We've done a lot of these.
Yeah.
I got them all mixed up.
Yeah, so we have 1.
Yeah, 1, 2,
and then 2, and then I'll show the third. But this we didn't really
we
have.
did the demos. What's the demo one?
That's from Crypts to Chaos.
That's right.
What I just discussed with the Finding the Live album.
There's 4 of them all together, correct?
Technically,
and the newest one.
Well, this is Volume 3. I have 1, 2, and 3 now. The demo compilation was its own thing.
Right, it was
that
its own thing. But that's what kind of started the graphite Photoshop. Okay, yeah. Or make sure everything's straight.
Yeah. But so Volume 2 is kind of like that too, but it's a little bit more rendered, which I like.
Right.
It has more detail. We can refine the mascot.
Well, and I wasn't. That was the whole idea. That was just to make sure it was. Yeah, let me see that too. Yeah, that was. I'm gonna leave it here. Yeah, that was to give us something to work with and to then market it. Yeah, like Eddie, Vic. Now we have Carl.
Snaggletooth from
Yeah,
Motorhead.
Snaggletooth. Yeah, absolutely. So that was the beauty of this guy. So it was really fun to be able to work on it because it's rare to ever get to work on a character for a band these days. Unfortunately, a lot of bands don't think of it that way, and I think it's really important. It's worked for all the greats so far, like all the bands we've mentioned, and I think it's a fun tradition. I think more metal bands should kind of get it. You don't have to do it, but think about all the bands that don't have an icon. Like Devourment was doing that with their little worm. Suffocation was kind of doing it with their S. Same with Sepultura was doing that with their S. Suicidal Tendencies, Slayer, has their pentagram without the bottom, inverted pentagram without the bottom.
Well, Cannibal Corpse has the fetus. That's like.
Oh yeah, their feet. Yeah.
That's like.
But that doesn't reoccur throughout their whole album. They just use that on Butchered at Birth. They just market it, but that image is not being drawn in any other cover that I've seen like that. And it's an amazing image. I mean, Vincent Locke, hats off to that brother. That guy's incredible. But now that we're doing with this with Carl,
And honestly, too, we've always utilized Carl on stage, and it never kind of made sense to people. And now it makes more sense.
Yeah,
so it's like, oh, okay. Now nobody can say who, obviously there are going to be ignorant people out there that don't know the band's history. Sure. And so, but the people that know aren't like, this came out of left field. It didn't. For the people that kind of know, it's like, no, he's always been there on stage. He comes out every show. My dad in the mascot suit with and then it also documents our old logo on the cover. So it kind of utilizes all of like where we came from. And
bring the history into the band, into the art. I think is really important. I mean, that's one of the greatest tools about art is to document and to tell a story. I think good artwork does that. I think every good cover should tell a story or something. Something that utilizes makes sense with the music. Sometimes you see a cover and you're like, okay, cool, it's brutal, but nothing specifically about the cover. And not every time, but sometimes. I always really enjoy when the cover does match at least one of the 2 or 3 of the lyrics or something. I enjoy that.
Yeah, or has a central theme to the lyrics or something.
Yeah.
Like what the essence of time was.
Absolutely.
So on Volume 2, it's actually features the original drummer Zach, original bass player Spencer, and newcomer at the time Jimmy Eunice. So that was incredibly important to me too, to document some of these players that I haven't seen in a long time. So I got to kind of what is it? What's the word I'm looking for? Kind of reintroduce myself to these people and kind of reach out and say, hey, like, I'm doing this. I want to give you a couple copies. I kind of.
Oh, yeah. That's right. I remember saying that. Made some peace
reconnect.
With some of them too.
Yeah. Reconnect with them. So that was all important to me, just as a human being as well, not just a musician.
Right.
And, just we're now documented together, which is nice, and. So, that was incredibly important. That specific show, that was 2008. August of 2008. And I was going to release it last year, but I figured, you know what, I'm going to release it. It'll be a fresh start to 2023. So I kind of had to go back to you and say, hey, put 2023 on this so I can,
Yeah, which is good. Yeah,
it's
you
just
don't
like,
want to.
I don't want to blow my load
all in
too
1 year.
quickly. Yeah.
Especially when you can't tour, nothing really for it or anything like that. They're kind of coming out like, that's almost esoterically. Almost to kind of being released out into the world.
But I love that aspect too. Of just it's like, oh, what is this? I always love that too. And so that's kind of what that was. I found an old picture of that specific lineup, and I remember showing it to you. You're like, what the hell is this?
Yeah, you guys are so
because
babies.
You didn't see. I'm like, I didn't even recognize you.
I didn't know the other band members. I didn't know those guys even played. Because when I saw you guys in Texas, I wasn't. Maybe one guy might have been the same, but no, right? Yeah, I just remember you. You're like the only person I really talked to in the band.
But my point is so you're like, I think you sent me the wrong band photo. I'm like, none of these. I'm like, is that you? It's like, dude, that was me.
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah, you're way young.
Yeah, so it's just like, no, that was me at that time, and I wanted to document that with my Deicide shirt. So.
Right.
Yeah, that was again, these are all incredibly successful for me personally. Might not have sold particularly too well, but that was never the point to doing these things.
Don't forget,
anyways.
you're not on a tour. Like if you're on a tour, if you're going to go, say a 3-month tour, and you had all those CDs to choose from, that's a rare thing. And if you're in Minnesota and some kid came up and you blew their mind and they're like, I want to buy every single one of these albums. And you're like, you can only buy them from us. You're not going to you can't buy them from anywhere else, just to make it that rare, because I feel like we've talked about this before. Like we're metalheads, man. The more rare it is, the better. Like I have so many rare albums myself, and it made me happy to even buy them just because A, it's a physical content, something I have, something that nobody else can really get. And 2, they gave me something the band can sign. Digital download, you can't do that. I mean, it's great, but I don't listen to digital downloads as much as I do a physical CD.
But it also gives other people the excuse to support you even further than just, say, a record or two. You have 5 or 6 of them, but some of them are live. Like, it's just another incentive to support that said band. So that's what I'm giving, like you said, people an excuse to support us even further. Now, what I kind of told myself maybe this would be the last one, number 2.
I didn't know. Saying that.
I didn't know if I had it in me to do a third.
Well, or enough content.
No, I had the content.
You had enough content.
I have the content. I was just like, I'm like, man, I don't know if I want to go through this again. Meaning, like, it's a lot of time, a lot of patience, a lot of funds,
Sure.
and just a lot of, because when you're like a one-man show, thankfully, obviously I have your support, I have your help, your talents. Not discrediting that. I'm just saying, when it's like one guy putting everything together, it's a lot of work per release.
I get it, brother. I know.
So, yeah, and I had the time.
But you get all the rewards.
That is true.
That's the beauty of it.
That's true. But, with Volume 2, I noticed there were songs on here that never actually got released. So now it was like, that's another reason for people to support it, because there's songs on here that you would never hear on a release, even, or at least the first 4 albums. Who knows? We can always use them on future releases, but not, this is kind of the first opportunity to hear these songs or whatnot. So, that was a big deal for me, kind of reconnecting and getting some of my old catalog back that, again, I haven't heard it in 15 years.
Right.
This was like a rediscovery for me, just as the artist. And I'm like, oh yeah. I'm like, I forgot how cool this song was, or this riff, or
and it's cool that you guys were tight enough at the time too that you can go back and you'd be like, oh, this is still good. It still holds up. Like, I can't do that with my other band. I'm like, no way. Like, our old stuff is horrendous.
But it's also it also documented a time for us that I can now say the band did exist during this time.
That's true.
B, the scene was completely different. Nobody gave us the opportunity, but we still existed during the time of that whole era of Orange County, LA metal.
Yeah, because at that era, that was like metalcore was popping off huge.
Thrash and metalcore were it. That was all that we had. So yeah, man, it's just nice to get the opportunity to document that. And like you said, it was during a time when I didn't really have anything else going on. So this was like my projects, and then it also got me, kind of reconnecting with obviously, Big Cat, Mark, and Richard or whatever. Just say, hey, I'm releasing these things, and it'll keep the band kind of fresh in people's minds.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Just like, they're still releasing stuff. So then it can give us more time to release the next album and things of that nature.
Well, and every artist always wants to have content out there in the world. There's no reason to hold on to it for forever. Like Prince, right? How many albums that guy have, music videos and stuff that guy's made? Now he's dead, and who's gonna be able to see any of that stuff? And if they do get released, so who's making the money? Like, you know what I mean? So there's a lot of bands that I've worked with that I've known, and it's a shame too, because they'll make one album and then they're like, oh yeah, we had enough material to make a second album, but we broke up or something like that. And you're just like, and you always know like the other stuff might have even been better than the first stuff because, they're working together as a band. Their first music is just, they might have been younger. Now they're more sophisticated. They went through the recording process that they already kind of get it, better understanding, better hold on recording. We all know people like that, bands like that. So I'm glad, like I say, I told you before, grateful that you even took the opportunity to release it.
There were many reasons to release it. The only reason not to release it was because of the quality, but everything else kind of outweighed that. When I started thinking of, no, this is important due to the context of it, the time period that it was recorded. It documents that time period for me, which is super important because it takes me back to that time of, man, like, this was actually more important than what I thought.
Sure.
And
especially
then
going back, listening to it with fresh ears and going through all the things you've gone through, you have perspective now. Before you didn't, because you're just going through it. Yeah,
and honestly, too, man, I got to kind of find a part of me again and get that back into my life. So it taught
itself right there.
Kind of taught me to reinforce that that notion of never forgetting where you come from,
right,
and B, that I still have the same morals and integrity even back then,
right.
Because I can hear it in my playing, and I'm like, man, there's so much conviction here, and I still have it.
Right.
So it's like it's a different type of conviction now, but I had conviction then, and I have it now, and I will have it in the future. So why not document the first kind of conviction that I had, my first talents, and where I'm at now? It just made a whole lot more sense to release them than not. Now, with the second volume comes out. And I'm struggling as to I'm like, man, do I want to do a third volume? And the more I got to thinking of it, it was like this might be the most important to my career. Now, many people don't know that we actually started out as a 3-piece.
Right. I didn't know that.
Many people, just know us as the 4-piece, me on vocals, guitar,
right.
and,
another guitar player, bass, drums.
Sure.
Yeah.
Now, at this juncture in our career, it was impossible to find players. It was literally me and Zach Cohen, the drummer, jamming after school every day. And my sister had a band called Sterling Hart, who had a bass player. And I just asked him out of the blue, saying, hey, Sean, his name's Sean Atkinson. I said, hey, Sean, do you mind just helping us out, filling us in for the time being until we can find somebody to play with? Because at this juncture, again, I'm going to reemphasize it. If you weren't playing metalcore, you had no opportunity to play with other people because that's the genre they wanted to play.
Yeah.
We were playing
that's
a more...
what people around here wanted to hear.
Yeah. Well, we were playing a more kind of old school style, and you know, it was kind of like an anomaly back in those times of, again,
especially when you compare it to like say brutal death metal bands. Like we talked about this before when I first met you at Building Temples from Death. You know, they're all brutal death metal bands. They're all super sick and great for the genre. You know, but if you mix something, throw something else that's a little different, it stands out a lot more. You know, and that's for me. That's what you did. And I come from a thrash base, anyways. You know, first type of metal I ever got into was thrash. So. And not too many people actually play that, unfortunately. So when you guys kicked off, I was like, oh, this is super cool, man. And you guys are from Southern California. I was like, oh, dude, I can't believe you're even from my neck of the woods. That blew my mind. Never even heard of you guys. I was super upset about that.
And that was one of the things, too, that I always have remembered about you as well when you told me of when I sent you all the videos of these shows, and then they can kind of give you a vibe. I no idea if you actually watched them. I know you watched a few segments. I had to figure out
what the stage was, and then it was fun to see just like the crowd. You know, it's always kind of fun to see
5
kids,
people,
man.
or there's like tons of people because we had all everything in between.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just I remember a comment from you saying that. What was it? If I knew of you guys back then, I would have been at all your shows.
I would have been totally, because it's so rare. What bands do you know now that even have really any thrash locally? I mean, sure, you know, around the world, sure, but I'm talking locally in Southern California. That.
Well, I mean, especially like the style of music we were playing, which was more simplistic death thrash, which is kind of cool to go back to. You know, some of these songs have 2 riffs in them.
Yeah.
But we made them work.
Yeah, made them work for sure.
So yeah, the more I kind of thought about this volume 3, this is probably the most important one for me personally.
Okay.
Now, just as it documents us at our infant stage, you know, 5 months into our career. This is December of 2007. The band started in July of 2007.
Yeah.
So we had 5 months of rehearsing, of just all this material, and as a 3-piece, and it's really difficult to get a full sound as a 3-piece.
Sure.
But because we were playing a more simplistic style anyways, maybe that's the secret to why it worked. And it's just cool that it's documented now.
Right. Yeah, and released.
Yeah,
and
and now it's released.
Seen the light of day.
Yeah,
like
I didn't.
Right. I'm sure you guys at that time playing and never thought of you could have a physical CD released of it. You know, it's so cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, you know, obviously this album cover, I think I told you this too. I originally wanted this on the Hood's Got Talent. Right. This actual design of us recording in a, you know, our mascot recording us in a studio as, you know, it would be me, Mark, Nick, and
Big Cat.
And Richard.
Oh, Richard.
And obviously the you know, Diego wanted to use this as his brand. Totally respectful.
Totally, yeah,
I can totally respect that. And so what happened is I was like, okay, I'll just use this same concept, but I'll apply it to this 3rd installment of the Lost Lives series.
Yeah.
Now, how it got its name is really cool too. Was I didn't have a name to title this series. I'm like, I needed it to kind of have a pun of showing people that this is actually live, you know, a live album. And my dad goes, well, they're all kind of lost live albums. Why don't you just call it Lost Lives? And I'm like, that's perfect.
That is perfect.
That works.
That is perfect.
You know, it's a kind of a pun on you know, a live album.
Yeah.
I thought the Lost part was cool because it reminded me of like Lost Wisdom Records, which is my label that I can put stuff out in. So it's just like,
well, and when you found it, right? It was lost, and then you found the music, then to put it on. So yeah, that works perfectly. Yeah,
and my dad is a genius as far as that goes.
I agree.
And so yeah, it gave, and it wasn't already taken. Not to my knowledge.
Which is another rarity these days.
And so, yeah, man, it was, but this 3rd volume represents kind of our entire career up until this point. It's got all of our album covers. It's got all of Tony's.
That was a fun one to do. Yeah, that was a fun one to do. Then put all the little, if people know, if you got you got the previous albums. Yeah, it has up on the top right, it has a little airplane, and then on the left it has the like the big meteor. And we got the skulls, and we got like all the little pieces inside here represents every cover, which is pretty fun to do. And then we have the cover itself within it. I forgot about that part too. That's fun. Yeah, it's a fun cover, man. It was fun to do.
It was.
Yeah,
man.
it was a lot of fun to do.
But it also represents all of Tony's workings with us as
yeah,
well.
Working with you guys for sure in there. And one, I've never done that in any covers I've ever done. So
yeah, it's just the first on all fronts, and like I gave you the color scheme of what I wanted, and you got it perfectly. I even was like, oh, can you add this, and this? No problem. Sent it, and
bada bing, bada boom, baby.
It was done. I love that you put the actual mascot from Volume 2 into the mix here.
Yeah.
So now it's kind of a central theme as opposed to like him looking different on every cover.
Right.
And this is kind of now this is what we need to work with now going forward is like this face, this, kind of thing, and build upon that rather than it being like, all kinds of different faces. But I wanted it one central theme to the mascot. Now we have it now. So this is it. And yeah, man, I just thought it was so cool to have all these little Easter eggs.
Yeah, that's what it is. The Easter eggs. That's what it is. That's what I was looking for.
And it's just like volume.
Lots of Easter eggs.
It's like volume 1, like little Easter eggs that if you know the history of it, it documents that. And people were telling me like this is like the best album cover that we had at the time.
No kidding.
Yeah, they loved all the little things going on with it, and there's so much to look at. And I'm like, okay, I want to do the same thing kind of with this in a short kind of window. And you gave me the more of your talents in doing it on a bigger sheet of paper.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
And so I just thought that was
poster.
Really,
I don't know that poster I put in my car, or that tapestry. I should have that tapestry.
I know we
hanging
should
back there. That thing's so bad to the bone, dude.
But we should. But my point.
That'll be the next one, next podcast.
My point is this is. All these are super important. There's songs on this one too that, like The Living Dead, I think we played 3 times. In our whole career, 3. Yeah. This is one of the 3. I found the actual ticket stub from this particular show, so I got to document that in it. And us as 16, I was 16 when this was recorded.
That's incredible.
I was a teenager.
Yeah, and then we have, then we got, I think we have, the ticket stub itself in there. Yeah, you put your band photos in there. Yeah, man, it's super fun.
And it was also fun to put the actual kind of drawing in the actual layout.
The graphite illustration underneath the CD.
Because I forgot I even mentioned that to you with one of your other album covers. I'm like, man,
a demon, and
it was a
grave desecration.
Yes.
Yeah, I did that. Like my early career, I did a lot of that just because it's like. 1, no one else I've ever seen ever do it, and 2, it fills up space, and it's like it's extra art.
Well, 3, it also documents it in its original simplistic form before all the stuff, so people can be like, "Oh, this is kind of cool." How all the extra goodies that, because you would never know that some of this stuff is photoshopped in. Now you can see like, no, it's actual.
Absolutely, yeah. The raw bare bones.
Yes,
where to start from.
Yeah. So
man,
man.
Cool, man. I'm glad you did. I'm glad you wanted that in there because it's been a long time since I've done it that way. And it's a long time since I even did a graphite cover. So most of the times I just do it in Photoshop because everybody always wants things changed, and it's it's just easier to change things in Photoshop as opposed to like, oh, I got to erase this whole, or I got to draw a whole other part and pain in the neck.
Now at this particular juncture too, I mentioned to you saying, man, like I would love to document this particular lineup that we're at nowadays with something else that wasn't like a studio thing.
Right.
And I had remembered we did this thing a couple years ago called The Hood's Got Talent, and I always wanted to put it out. Right. Just like I didn't want it to go to waste because I thought the performances were pretty strong. I showed you them, and you're like, yeah, this you need to this should exist. And it's like, why not?
Right.
And so
I went, such a great lineup, man. Your lineup now is so tight.
And we yeah, it was just like why waste it that day, that opportunity. So I went back to Diego of Candle Power Records, who graciously gave me the tracks
Yep,
and
the masters,
and
right?
the permissions, and
Yeah.
just, hey man, you do what you got to do with it. Like I think all the bands on that particular show should do the same thing. Work with him, give him his image,
Agreed.
but also get your tracks and do it the way you want it to be done. So that's what I did. We went to Bill Matoyer, which we never worked with Bill, and it's an honor that the guy did Slayer.
Yeah.
The first 2 Slayer albums.
So
It's like,
sick.
okay, now that's a huge check mark off my bucket list of just
Right.
working with a legendary producer who was very pivotal at metal in its infant stages during
Yep.
the 80s.
Yep.
So that was really cool. And particular fun fact of it is that my guitar parts were kind of sabotaged, not unsuspectingly. We didn't know until like we went in to get into the meat of things, and it was like, oh fuck. Well, at least what we can do is we just have to re-record all the guitars. So we just re-recorded all the rhythm guitars, and it turned out fantastic, man.
What happened in the original
The
take?
signal, whatever signal that my stuff was coming through, got annihilated. It was the only guitar part to do that
Okay.
out of all the bands or whatever. So it was just telling me, hey, you can do this. We just have to touch it up a little bit.
Okay.
That's what we did.
Yeah, it's like you can't do it.
Yeah, it's not. I felt like a real band because
Right.
most bands are. That's what they did.
Gotcha.
They re-recorded all sorts of things on all live albums. So, yeah, man, it was just a super important series to do. So I thank you very much again for doing it.
Dude, my pleasure, man.
And
it was super fun to, like I say, as a fan, to want to be a part. I think I wish other bands would do this, and I think it's super cool for me to be a part of something I wish other bands have done for years, since I was like 15, and to be able to be part of it, man, it's kind of a big deal for me. So thank you again, T. You a bad man with jam, but man, I'm glad. I'm looking forward to many more of these things you're going to be releasing, hopefully in the future, man, because it's you guys are too good. Like I say, you have a beautiful lineup, great, talented guys, all amazing human beings. And, I really look forward to seeing what the new music you guys release. I know it's going to be awesome.
Yeah, it's going to be different, which is very nice. But hopefully, it'll be
It's going
more.
to be awesome.
Hopefully, it'll be more Madrost than say other bands, like
Okay.
to where we can have our own footprint. Like now, it's our own sound. Even though we've been trying to achieve that every record. It's like
course.
maintaining our own sound rather than it sounding like this, or this.
Sure.
Which you're always going to kind of have those inklings because it's just how the band's original influences are. It doesn't.
Yeah, the roots of everything.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you gotta start from somewhere. You branch out from there.
Yeah, exactly. So, so that's pretty much the Lost Life series summed up, and then the Hood's Got Talent is digitally it got released as a just the single. So we only put 2 tracks out of the 5, and the 5's kind of like you only get that with the physical. Just more incentive for
Gotcha.
people to buy the physical, and I wanted to do that for marketing purposes of just
Yeah.
like you want take 2, 3, and take 2 of this track. Okay, you get the physical. Just because I don't want everything out there digitally.
I agree, man. And and also too, people are spoiled. People are spoiled. They just type it in, and all of a sudden, the whole discography is there.